I still remember the first time I met Ryan. It was freshman year at the University of Texas in Austin. I was the quiet kid in the back of the lecture hall, and he was the guy everyone seemed to know. Charming, confident, the kind of person who could make friends in a grocery store line. We were paired up for a group project in history class. I thought it would be one of those forced, awkward partnerships, but Ryan made it feel natural. We spent hours in the campus library grabbing coffee from the cafe downstairs and talking about everything from our dream jobs to our worst high school memories. It wasn't long before we were inseparable. For the next 12 years, Ryan became more than just my best friend. He was like a brother. He was there when my dad passed away, when I bought my first car, and even when I landed my first job in Dallas. We'd take road trips across Texas, camping in Big Bend National Park or spending weekends in San Antonio eating the best barbecue we could find. And then there was Emily. I met her at a friend's 4th of July party. She had that kind of smile that made you forget what you were about to say. We hit it off instantly. Late night talks, weekend getaways, the whole honeymoon phase. Ryan met her a month later, and I remember thinking, man, I'm glad my best friend and my girlfriend get along so well. If only I had known that one day, those two people, the ones I trusted the most, would become the very reason I'd start planning the most calculated act of revenge of my life. At first, everything seemed perfect. Emily and I had been dating for almost 2 years, and Ryan was like the honorary third wheel in our relationship. We'd all go to football games together. Longhorns games in Austin, tailgating with beer and burgers in the parking lot before kickoff. It felt like my life was exactly where I wanted it to be. But then little things started to change. Ryan would text Emily about random stuff, memes, inside jokes, without looping me in. At first, I brushed it off. They were friends, and I trusted both of them completely. But slowly, the frequency of those texts grew, and sometimes I'd catch Emily smiling at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. One night, we were at Ryan's apartment for a movie night. I got up to grab some drinks from the kitchen, and when I came back, they were laughing, harder than I'd seen them laugh in a long time, about something they quickly brushed off when I asked. It wasn't what they said. It was how they looked at each other. A glance that lasted just a second too long. I tried to tell myself I was overthinking. After all, Ryan had been my friend for over a decade. He'd been there for me through everything. And Emily, well, she was the woman I thought I'd marry. But deep down, somewhere I didn't want to acknowledge, I knew that a crack had formed. And if there's one thing about cracks, it's that they never stay small for long. A few weeks later, I was working late at the office in Dallas when I realized I'd left my phone charger at home. I decided to swing by the apartment quickly before heading back to finish my work. When I walked in, the lights were dim, and I could hear laughter coming from the living room. Emily was sitting on the couch, and Ryan was right next to her, not across the room, not on another chair, but sitting close enough that their knees were touching. They were looking at something on his phone, and she didn't even notice I'd walked in until I said, "Hey, what's going on here?" They both jumped slightly, exchanging a quick glance before Emily said, "Oh, Ryan just stopped by to drop off those concert tickets for next weekend." It was the kind of answer that made sense on the surface, but something in her tone felt rehearsed. I tried to act normal, but the rest of the night my mind kept replaying that image of them together. Later, while Emily was in the shower, I checked her phone. No new messages from Ryan, at least not in the thread I could see. That's when it hit me. If they were hiding something, they could have easily deleted the messages before I got home. From that night on, I started noticing more coincidences. Times when Emily would be out with friends and Ryan would mysteriously be unavailable to hang out. The way they seemed to avoid eye contact when we were all together. I still didn't have proof. But the gut feeling was there, growing stronger every day. And I was starting to realize that the two people I trusted most might be keeping a secret that could destroy everything. It all came to a head one Friday night. Emily told me she was going to a girls' night with some coworkers from her marketing job in downtown Dallas. She even showed me a text thread with a couple of their names, probably to make it seem more believable. About an hour later, I realized I'd left my laptop charger in my car. I went down to the parking garage, and her car was still there. That sinking feeling in my gut turned into a full-blown alarm bell. I decided to wait. 2 hours passed before I saw her car finally pull out. I followed, keeping a couple of cars back, trying not to be obvious. She drove across town to a quiet neighborhood in Plano and parked in front of a familiar house. Ryan's house. I watched from down the street as she got out, walked up to the door, and was greeted by Ryan himself. No handshake, no friendly pat on the back. They hugged, longer than friends hug, and then she stepped inside. I sat there in my car, heart pounding, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. Part of me wanted to storm in, demand answers right then and there. But another part of me knew, if I confronted them now, they could lie, twist the story, make me look crazy. Number. If they were betraying me, I needed proof. Undeniable proof. And from that moment on, I decided I was going to get it, no matter how much it hurt. The next morning, I woke up with one goal in mind: catch them red-handed. I started researching hidden cameras and audio recorders. Within a few days, I had discrete devices small enough to fit inside a bookshelf, a picture frame, even a fake plant in the corner of our living room. I placed one in the kitchen, one in the living room, and one in the hallway near the bedroom. I even put a small GPS tracker in Emily's car, just in case. It wasn't about paranoia anymore, it was about knowing the truth. For the first couple of weeks, nothing happened. The cameras captured nothing more than Emily scrolling on her phone or watching TV. But then came a Wednesday afternoon when I was supposed to be at the office all day. The GPS showed Emily's car parked in front of our apartment building around noon. 15 minutes later, Ryan's car appeared on the same street. My heart started pounding as I remotely activated the camera feed from the living room. There they were, Emily and Ryan, standing way too close in the kitchen, laughing, touching each other's arms like it was the most natural thing in the world. A few minutes later, they moved to the couch. Ryan leaned in, whispered something in her ear, and she smiled in a way I hadn't seen in months. Not with me, anyway. It wasn't just my imagination anymore. It was happening. And now I had the evidence. I didn't rush into confronting her that night. Instead, I sat in my car after work, replaying the footage over and over, each time feeling the anger in my chest grow heavier. Every smile, every touch, every whisper burned into my memory. I knew if I just exploded in the moment, she'd deny it. She'd cry, say I misunderstood, that I was overreacting. I'd seen her pull that move before, twist the story until I was the bad guy. Number. This time, I wanted control, so I made a plan. I gathered every piece of evidence, video clips, audio recordings, GIS logs, and saved them in multiple places. A secure cloud account, a USB drive hidden in my desk at work, and even an envelope I mailed to my brother in Austin with "Do Not Open" written on it. Then I waited. I waited for the perfect moment, one where she couldn't wriggle out of it, one where the truth would hit her like a freight train. That moment came sooner than I expected. Emily's birthday was coming up, and she was planning a small dinner at a trendy restaurant in Dallas. She invited a few friends, and of course, Ryan. That's when I knew exactly how this was going to end. The restaurant was one of those upscale places where the lighting is dim, the plates are small, and the bill makes you wonder if you accidentally bought the table. I arrived early wearing my best suit, not because I wanted to impress, but because I wanted to look composed, in control. Emily walked in with Ryan right behind her. He placed his hand on the small of her back, as if he had any right to touch her like that. She didn't flinch. In fact, she smiled. Our friends trickled in, the table filled with wine glasses, laughter, and small talk. I kept my cool, chatting with everyone, waiting for the right moment. Halfway through dinner, after the second round of drinks, I raised my glass. "I'd like to make a toast," I said, smiling at Emily. Everyone turned to me. She looked surprised, maybe even nervous. To my wife, I began, who I thought was the love of my life, and to the man who's been keeping her busy when I wasn't around. A confused murmur rippled through the table. Ryan shifted in his seat. Emily's face went pale. I reached into my jacket, pulled out my phone, and hit play. The sound of their laughter filled the room, followed by the unmistakable video of them on our couch, leaning into each other. The table went silent. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. Ryan muttered something and stood up, but I kept the camera rolling on my phone for everyone to see. "This," I said, "is what betrayal looks like." The moment the video ended, the silence was deafening. No one moved. No one spoke. Emily's eyes filled with tears, but I could tell they weren't from guilt. They were from being exposed. Ryan mumbled something about needing to leave, grabbed his coat, and practically ran out of the restaurant. Two of our friends excused themselves awkwardly. Another couple just stared at Emily like they were seeing her for the first time. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and dropped an envelope on the table in front of her. "Divorce papers," I said plainly. "They've been ready for weeks. All that's left is your signature." She stammered, "We can talk about this." But I cut her off. "Number? You talked enough with him." I walked out without looking back, my heart pounding, but my mind clear. Outside, the cool Texas night air hit my face, and for the first time in months, I felt free. By the next morning, word had spread. Her friends stopped returning her calls, Ryan was reportedly avoiding the gym we all used to go to, and Emily sent me a dozen texts. Apologies, excuses, bargaining attempts. I didn't respond to a single one. A week later, we were sitting across from each other in a sleek downtown Austin law office. Her attorney, a young guy who looked like he just stepped out of law school, kept trying to play nice. "We believe," he started, "that Emily is entitled to a fair division of assets, including the house and joint savings." I leaned back, hands folded. "Funny you should mention the savings," I said, sliding a folder across the table. Inside were bank statements showing the $40,000 transfer Emily made to a separate account under her name, 3 days before I confronted her. Her lawyer's smile faltered. I continued, "That's marital theft, and in Texas, that's not taken lightly. I have all the evidence, and I'm ready to go to court if she wants to push it." Emily's eyes dropped to the table. She knew she was caught. After a tense silence, her lawyer suggested we revisit the terms. The new deal? I kept the house, the car, and 80% of the savings. She walked away with the rest. No alimony. When she finally signed the papers, her hands were trembling. Mine weren't. The day the divorce was finalized, I didn't throw a party. I didn't even post about it. Instead, I drove out to Lake Travis just before sunset, parked my truck, and sat on the tailgate watching the sky burn orange and pink. For the first time in a long time, there was no weight on my chest. No lies, no betrayal, no pretending. Emily was out of my life, and I had walked away with my dignity and my freedom intact. I pulled out my phone, scrolled past her unread texts, and opened a message from someone new. A friend had introduced us a few weeks ago, and for once I felt ready to start something without the ghost of the past looming over me. As the first stars appeared, I smiled to myself. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the start of a much better chapter.